Hey guys, we're back at it again. We have Russ Coldheart and his Q&A. This young lady sitting next to him here asked him a question about Harold Malgrim and his legacy with Wikipedia and the nonsense that's going on with that. And then something at the end is said. This is something you might want to stay to the end and listen to. This changes everything. You guys like, subscribe, share with your friends.
We want to start. We want to get your thoughts on an interview that was just released with former presidential advisor Harold Malmgren. He sadly just passed away, as you know, but in this interview with Jesse Michaels, he says, quote, "I directly handled UFO material." Can we just get your reaction to what Harold's revealed?
I'm so glad you've asked me about this because I think this is one of the most important interviews of recent years. Harold Malmgren was a great American. Picture this. You're a 27-year-old super clever guy. You get hired into the White House to work for JFK. The Cuban Missile Crisis breaks out, and you've got General Curtis LeMay, the head of the US Air Force, wanting to launch nuclear missiles in a preemptive attack on the Soviets. What do? You get Harold Malmgren to avert nuclear war. That's what Robert McNamara, the defense secretary, did. It's an amazing story. Harold worked in the JFK White House, and he went on to work closely. In fact, his CV is absolutely extraordinary. He went on to work for LBJ, Nixon, and Ford as a presidential advisor. He also had a personal relationship with Vladimir Putin in Russia, and he's advised every Japanese prime minister since Tanaka in the 70s, Giscard d'Estaing in France, Pompidou. The credentials of this guy are extraordinary. And before I get into what he actually said in the interview, I just want to express my absolute grave concern at the fact that someone in the last 24 hours, since Jesse Michaels' interview has gone up, has started trying to nominate for deletion, the Wikipedia page of not only Harold Malmgren, a great American, but also his daughter Pippa, who's also an incredibly dedicated former public servant, a very senior economist who served in the Bush White House. For some reason, someone has taken it upon themselves to delete the two Wikipedia entries of the Malmgren family. And here's why. In the interview that he did with Jesse Michaels, Harold Malmgren asserts that he actually held material that had been recovered from the Bluegill triple prime thermonuclear bomb blast in the Pacific in 1962 in his hands. It came out of the plume of a nuclear bomb blast. And a good friend of mine, Jeff Cruikshank, who's a friend of the Reality Check show, he's been on the show a couple of times, he did the work that showed there was in fact a film available online from the Department of Energy showing that object, whatever it is, falling out of the thermonuclear cloud at the time. And what's quite incredible, I've been privy to this for a while, well before sadly Harold passed in February. What happened was I was talking to Pippa Malmgren, who came out to Australia, and she told me what her dad was saying and how he was opening up about what he learned about UFOs in the JFK White House. How he was briefed by, I think, a deputy director of operations for the CIA called Richard Bissell into the fact of the CIA's legacy UAP retrieval program. Yes, that it was true. So you had a very, very authoritative American public figure, somebody who's had the credentials of an ambassador, stating categorically not only that he held UFO material, but he was read into the program in part by Richard Bissell from the CIA, the director, I think he was the deputy director of plans for the CIA, the man who designed and built Area 51, Richard Bissell. And he also told, this is really important stuff, because you'll remember in the David Grush interview, David Grush talked about the 1933 Magenta UAP crash, where the Italian fascists recovered a craft that was at one stage being looked at by the Nazis, and then eventually secretly, covertly recovered by the CIA, by the Americans, and taken to America in around about 1944. Harold Malmgren confirms that story He was told that story. This is important stuff. For the people who say there are no witnesses who can give evidence, this is why his evidence matters. And it's obviously why someone in the last 24 hours has taken upon themselves to try and delete any references to what Harold Malmgren has revealed. In the worst case scenario, it's just those jocks who call themselves the guerrilla skeptics on Wikipedia, who are complete denialists and who go around excluding any information that suggests there's any credibility to the UAP story. In the worst case scenario, it's an arm of the defence or intelligence community trying to exclude, to censor what Harold Malmgren said from public knowledge. So all of you out there, please go to Jesse Michael's American Alchemy page on YouTube and watch this incredible 3 hour, I think it's 3 hours, 18 minutes interview. I'm still working through it. It's such a huge thing. I haven't been able to get through it all yet. But every time I go back and watch it, there's another aha moment where I go, oh my God, it really is quite extraordinary stuff. One thing to finish, by the way, with Harold, he told Pippa, who's a good friend of mine in the last few hours of his life, he told her that he was aware that there had been UFO crash survivors, biologics, recovered from Roswell. And moreover, he had seen a video of the sole surviving extraterrestrial being from that crash. So this is why somebody is trying to delete this information. And what is going on at the moment when one of the supposedly most authoritative sources of information on the web, Wikipedia, is allowing itself to be traduced by people who call themselves guerrilla skeptics, who basically go in and delete things that are inconvenient to their narrative, to their cause of events. This matters. It's really important. I think Congress needs to get into the issue of who is censoring Wikipedia. Thank you, Megan. Rant over.
Hey guys, so that's it for that one there. I wanted you guys to check this one out because I feel like this was extremely important. It's important to the UFO transparency that we're pushing towards. It's important because at the end of this video here, Harold Malgren actually admitted just before he passed to Pippa that he had seen video evidence of alien life, a survivor, an NHI from one of these crash retrieval programs from one of the ships that had landed or crashed or whatever you say. It's extremely important. This is firsthand witness. RIP to Harold Malgren and his legacy, and what's going on with Wikipedia is absolute trash, in my opinion. Absolute trash. And Russ Coldheart spoke on this, saying maybe it's just a bunch of rogue skeptics, right? I don't think it is. Because what would they have to prove? Or, you know what I mean, by doing that? It doesn't make any sense why just a bunch of randos would do something like that. Makes absolutely no sense. So I do think that somebody else is behind it. I think they're trying to cover something up, you know, not trying to fall into that whole conspiracy rabbit hole. But I do feel like this is a bunch of trashy crap that they're trying to pull. Trying to dismantle this man's legacy is, and I'll just say it, it's bullshit. Straight up bullshit. Anyways, you guys, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.